Welcome in to another episode of Clearing the Air with Kevin Collaire. I am your host, the one, the only Kevin Collaire. My friends call me Kevo. You can call me Kevo because I do consider us friends. Do not forget, this is the best in sports talk content, so make sure you treat it as such. Hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast. Hit the like button. Comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Rate it, review it. 5 stars only. Like it, all that good stuff. We appreciate all who have subscribed. We appreciate all who will subscribe. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If this is your second time listening, welcome back. I really appreciate y'all. Like I said, make sure you guys subscribe. Do all that good stuff. This would normally be the time of week where I have a guest come join me, and we'll either talk about stuff that I talked about earlier in the week, or we'll just talk about like other stuff and get off the rails like we did a couple weeks ago. But this Thursday in particular, there will not be a guest. It will just be me. So bear with me. And I'm going to keep it short. I know I said on the last episode I keep it short, and it still went like 50 minutes. It wasn't supposed to go 50 minutes. I apologize. So I will make sure that I keep this short because, like I said, we're not here to waste time. We're not here to meander around BS. I'm here to just get right to it. So, boys' national championship game was last week. And now that the NCAA tournament's over, by the way, we're shifting to basketball. We're going to talk NBA. We're about to get heavy NBA because I'm a basketball guy. We are going to get heavy in the NBA, but I have to make sure I address one last thing in college basketball because y'all are doing that thing you do where you start tripping. And when y'all trip, I don't really tend to catch it as much as I'd like, right? So here y'all are tripping. And every time a new team wins, we get this same question, right? So when a team wins 2 championships in a row, are they a dynasty? When a professional team wins, whatever, we're trying to make the Warriors a dynasty early, and we had to give it some time. So, of course, here's the question now. UConn. They've won 6 championships in the last 25 years. It's very convenient that they started at 25 years because 25 years ago is when they won the first of those 6. And if you take that one away, I don't remember. Then they didn't win again until whenever. But anywho, okay, is UConn a blue blood? Everybody's got this want to make everybody a blue blood, right? Let's define what is the term blue blood? What does that phrase mean? For those of you who are new to this, who've been living under a rock and don't hear the term blue blood every year when we talk about college basketball, the blue bloods are the teams who just kind of really did the dominate and did a lot of the winning when it came to college sports, college basketball in particular. Those blue bloods, the OG blue bloods, were the North Carolina Tar Heels, the Duke Blue Devils, the Kansas Jayhawks, the Kentucky Wildcats, and the Indiana Hoosiers. Those 5. Now, and UCLA. The UCLA Bruins, those 6. Now, the reason why it's called blue blood is because 5 of those 6 schools have blue in them. Indiana, of course, does not, but I think I'm not really exactly sure how they got into the mix. Maybe blue blood wasn't originally about the colors, but anyway, long story short, Indiana was one of them because blue blood doesn't mean it's the teams that are good that have blue. It is about the teams who are dominating the sport. Now, with that being said, I'm not somebody who believes that having success 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago should grandfather you into these conversations, right? I think that as you go to generations, things change. So Mount Rushmore's, I talked about Mount Rushmore with me when we talked about the women's game last week. Certain people I didn't put on there, not because they weren't iconic or influential, but just because my generation, I was born in 1994. I'm 30 years old. So if you were before 1994, I'm probably not putting you in. If you're before 2000, I'm probably not putting you in simply because I didn't know anything about it, right? We're in 2024. Okay, so anything post 2000, quite frankly, is kind of irrelevant, okay? That's going to be important later. So, like I said, the OG Blue Bloods, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, Indiana, and UCLA. I'm going to need to check my notes a lot, but it's all good. All right? So let's do the last 25 years because it's 2024 So 1999, or I guess it's the 98-99 season. Let's do the last 25 years. UConn has 6 national championships. North Carolina has 3. Duke has 3. Kansas has 2. Kentucky has 1. Michigan State 1. Villanova 2. UCLA none. And Indiana none. The reason I brought up Villanova is because when Jay Wright with Villanova won 2 out of 3, that was the conversation. Oh, is Villanova a blue blood? They haven't won since, and he retired. But anyway, so let's talk about it. Is UConn a blue blood? One, for me, I don't think 6 teams need to be blue bloods. I think it should be 4, but I'll give you 5. If you want to have 5, I'll give you 5. I will not give you 6, but I'll give you 5. Let's list it because it's going to determine, right? What's important? Is it just championships? Is it consistent success? Is it Final Fours? Is it like win percentage? So like if you make the Final Four this amount of times, how many times do you win? So like the combination of both, right? Like you can determine what it is that's important to you, but I'll give you all the data, okay? So in the last 25 years, let's start with UConn because they are the talk of the town. UConn has 6 national championships in the last 25 years. UConn has 9 years of the last 25 years where they didn't make the tournament at all, okay? UConn then has 7 years. So 7 years where they made the tournament but didn't win. So 7 of the last, I want to say that's 16. 10. They didn't make it out of the first weekend. Okay? So in 25 years, you have 6 championships. Of the final 19, 16 of them, you didn't make it out the first weekend. 9 of them, you didn't even make it to the tournament at all. All right? So, but in that stretch, though, they also have 7 Final Fours. So when they do make it out the first weekend, they tend to make the Final Four. Okay? North Carolina, 3 championships, 5 years where they didn't make the tournament. By the way, one of these years, we're really doing 24 years because one of those years was the COVID year where there was no tournament. So, you got to, right? So anyway, 5 years, no tournament. 5 years, they didn't make it out the first weekend. 7 Final Fours. Duke, 3 championships. Only 2 years they didn't make the tournament. 6 years they didn't make it out the first weekend. So at least to the Sweet 16, 6 Final Fours. Kansas, 2 championships. Only 1 year they didn't make it. And that was the COVID year. So really there's no years that they didn't make it. 9 years, though, where they didn't make it out of the first round. Or out of the first weekend, excuse me. But they also have 6 Final Fours. Kentucky, 1 championship in the last 25 years. 4 years where they just didn't make the tournament. And 9 years where they didn't make it out of the first weekend. And 4 Final Fours. Villanova, 2 championships. 9 years where they didn't make the tournament. 7 years where they didn't make it out of the first round. And 4 Final Fours. A very similar stat line to UConn. Only UConn has 3 more Final Fours and 4 more championships. And then lastly, Michigan State, who I put up there because I wanted to show you, like when you lay the stuff out side by side and you line it up and you see the similarities in some people's resumes, you start to be like, oh man, no one ever really talks about Michigan State. Michigan State has a championship. 1 year, only 1 year they didn't make it. Again, that was the COVID year. But they have 11 years where they didn't make it out of the first weekend. But they also have 7 Final Fours. So them and North Carolina and UConn are tied for the most Final Fours, but they also have the most years when they made it of not making it out the first weekend. So it's really about, they also are tied for the most years of not making it out. No, I lied, sorry. They also are tied with the least amount of years of not making it at all, which is 0 with Kansas. So take out the championship. So in 25 seasons, okay, if you take out the 7 years that they didn't make it out of the first weekend, so you cut that down, you take that 7 out, and you take out however many years that they didn't make the tournament at all. So for UConn, of 25 years, 16 of them, they didn't make it. They weren't relevant. When I say like relevant to winning a championship, of the 25 years, UConn only had 9 seasons in which they were actual championship contenders. In those 9 seasons, they made the Final Four 7 times. They won 6 championships. North Carolina had 5 years, didn't make it, 5 years where they didn't make it out the first weekend. So they had 10 seasons of the 25, so 40% of not being championship relevant. So 15 out of 25, though, they had a shot. Of that 15, they made 7 Final Fours, so 50% hit rate, I guess a little less, 3 rings, 3 championships. Okay? Now, what I tell you guys before, it's hard to win these. Okay? Winning championships is hard. So 3 out of 15, 3 out of 17, Duke. 6 out of 9 is insane. But 3 out of 15 is 1 for every 5. And again, that's not 1 for every 5 tournaments that you make. That's not 1 for every 5 Final Fours you make. That's 1 for every 5 relevant tournaments you're in. That's 3 of 7 Final Fours that you're winning. So again, a little bit less than 50% hit rate. And you got to North Carolina. I'm a Carolina fan, so I'm a little biased, but you got the year they lost to Villanova off the buzzer beater. Right? The year they lost, I think that was the year Carmelo and them won 2008. I thought they had the best team. And they had the year Kendall Marshall got hurt. I thought they also had the best team. But anyway, I digress. That's why it's hard. Because you can have the best team, but the best team, as I told you guys before, the best team doesn't always win. Okay? So anyway, then you got Duke. They only had 2 years where they didn't make it. And they had 6 years where they were knocked out of the first weekend. So that's 8. So they got 17 out of 25. And of that 17, they won 3 chips and they made the Final Four 6 times. Kansas was 15 out of 25, 2 rings out of 15, 6 Final Fours. Kentucky, 12 out of 25. So now we're starting to dwindle a little bit. This is under a 50% hit rate as far as relevancy of actual chance to win a championship in the NCAA tournament. 12 out of 25. 1 out of 12 championships. They won in 2012. And 4 Final Fours. Okay? Michigan State. 13 out of 25. I apologize if you hear my chair creaking. 13 out of 25 for Michigan State. Of those 13, they got 1 ring. They made 7 Final Fours. And then Villanova, who goes back to the low end like UConn, they only had 9 years of the last 25 that they've made a legitimate push to win. In those 9 years, they won 2 rings and they went to 4 Final Fours. So if you want to do this based on Final Four hit rate, right? Okay, what Final Fours? Coaches get a lot of credit for Final Fours. Programs get a lot for Final Fours. Of the relevant years, okay, UConn, 7 out of 9. North Carolina, 7 out of 15. Duke, 6 out of 17. Kansas, 6 out of 15. Kentucky, 4 out of 12. Michigan State, 7 out of 13. And Villanova, 4 out of 9. So if you're doing it based on that metric, and again, I've given you 7 teams. I believe there should only be 4, but I will give you 5. If you do it off of that metric, Final Four hit rate, when you're there, how often you make the Final Four, you would take Kentucky out because that's 1/3. And you would take, you'd probably take Villanova out because everybody else has at least 6 Final Fours. So Kentucky and Villanova are the 2. Well, even though Villanova's made it 9 times, and 4 out of 9 is a little less than 50%, everybody else has 6. UConn 7, Carolina 7, Duke 6, Kansas 6, Michigan State 6, while Kentucky and Nova only have 4. So if you want to do it based on Final Four hit rate, you take Kentucky out, you take Villanova out, and your blue bloods would be UConn, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Michigan State. Okay, well, that don't sound right. Now do it. Okay, well, let's do it just solely based on championships. Okay, well, UConn's got 6. Duke and Carolina have 3. Kansas has 2. Villanova has 2. You would take Kentucky and Michigan State out. Okay, so you have UConn, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, and Villanova would be your 6. Maybe that sounds a little bit more. Maybe that sounds a little bit more like on par, right? Notice the common theme here. Both times, the team we've knocked out here is Kentucky. Over the last 25 years, sure, they've been relevant. Sure, they have high recruiting classes, but that doesn't make you a blue blood. Wins, results make you a blue blood. Anyway, let's keep going. What if we say we have to take percentages here. It can't be all or nothing. We need consistent greatness. We can't have either you're way up here or you're nothing. Okay? Well, Villanova and UConn, because they've only made 9 out of 25. Again, their hit rate is remarkable. If in 9 years, if you make it out the first weekend, you make it to the Final Four, basically. And when you make it to the Final Four, you basically win it all. That's a super high percentage hit rate for Final Fours and championships and how they correlate. But you went 9 out of 25. What is that math? 9 divided by 25, what's that? 9 times 4, that's 36%. Right? So if you're doing it based on, well, you have to show consistent success. Making the tournament's just not enough. You have to make sure that you're in the Sweet 16 and beyond. Consistent success. UConn and Villanova knock off. Now you got North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Michigan State. Because all of them have done at least 13. Well, Kentucky did 12, Michigan State 13, Carolina and Kansas 15, Duke 17. But again, when you're a team that has so many championships, it's hard to 6 championships in 25 years alone is already hard, and that's already an incredible rate. Doing it in only 9, it's doing it out of 9 or doing it out of 7 Final Fours is even more incredible. So it's hard to knock that out. But if you did that 5, like I was talking about, Michigan State, Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and you had to put UConn in because of their championships, you would knock out either Kentucky or Michigan State. Probably Kentucky, because Michigan State has them beat in every category. They have the same amount of championships. Michigan State has 1 more appearance past the Sweet 16. Michigan State has 3 more Final Fours. So once again, on that metric, you knock out Kentucky. Do you see where I'm? This isn't even really where I'm going here, but it's a broader conversation to have. I think that the conversation should not be so rooted in is UConn a blue blood? The conversation should probably be rooted in who's not anymore, right? And then if you want to do the last metric, which is just simply championships to Final Fours, how many championships you've won, like when you get to the Final Four, how often do you close the deal? Okay, well, UConn's 6 for 7, North Carolina's 3 for 7, Duke's 3 for 6, Kansas is 2 for 6, Kentucky's 1 for 4, Michigan State's 1 for 7, Villanova's 2 for 4. If you do it that way, you got Kentucky, Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Nova, with Kentucky and Michigan State still out. Now again, I'm only going off the last 25 years. By the way, if you look at this list, of the last 25 years, you've got 6, 9, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18 of the last 25 champions are right here on this list. So I don't want to hear, oh, well, what about, because I don't care about the one time that this one school, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, I already gave Michigan State in here just 1 because of how many Final Fours they got. But 18 of the last 25 champions are from 6 schools. So I would like to do blue bloods in generations. Once 2000 comes, these numbers change a little bit, right? Because that takes a championship away from UConn. Well, now they're 5 out of 9 with 6 Final Fours, right? How does that change things? Right? But anyway, you get my point. The point is, the conversation should not be is UConn a blue blood? The conversation should be who is not. And by every metric that I've given you, by breaking down the numbers, I got it right here in front of me. There is Michigan State, Kentucky, and Villanova seem to be the 3 that are always, okay, UNC, Duke, Kansas, and UConn tend to be the 4, and then of the 1, you're sprinkling Kentucky, Michigan State, Villanova, and honestly, they all have a chance. If I had to pick my blue bloods of 2025, of the last 25 years of this generation, 1999 to 2024, my blue bloods would be UConn, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Michigan State. That's it. That's what it would be. That would be the five. I think that Kentucky doesn't win enough, right? And again, this doesn't mean these aren't good programs. But being a blue blood is about more than how many guys I send to the Final Four. In Villanova's case, you can't become a blue blood because of a 3-year period, right? It takes more than that. Michigan State's case, you can't become a blue blood just because you're always in the tournament. You gotta win, right? So those are the three that I always get. But I would probably choose Michigan State over Kentucky and over Villanova because they do have a higher hit rate as far as making it past the Sweet 16. They have just as many championships as Kentucky and more final. They almost have the same amount of Final Fours as Kentucky and Villanova combined, right? They're one short. So I'd give the edge to Michigan State. 9 out of 25 is just not enough for Villanova. So it would really be for me between Michigan State and Kentucky, and they just have the only thing that Kentucky has over over Michigan State is Kentucky won one championship in 12 times past the Sweet 16, while Michigan State won 1 in 13. So the percentages, so that's what I got. UConn, UNC, Duke, Kansas, Michigan State. That's what it is for me. Okay? You make the determination on what it means, on what it is for you. Clearing the Air with Kevin Collaire is brought to you by absolutely nothing. Still make sure you get in while you can before the ads start flooding up all this stuff. Right now, there's no ads. It's still just me. So we get to just jump right into the next 7 without you having to hear about DraftKings or Prize Picks or any of those stuff. But you will hear about it eventually. So I'm telling you now's the time to tell your homies, hey, look, there's no ads. It's straight to the content. Let's get it, all right? Because it is still the best sports talk. It's the best in sports talk content. That will never change. So I told you we were going to get heavy into basketball, into the NBA. We are getting heavy into the NBA right now. I was looking it up the other day, and this is as of, I'm recording this on Thursday, but obviously you guys are going to hear it on Friday. So what I'm telling you could change. All right. And actually, even when I was looking this stuff up, there were still a couple of games that were being played that had to be played when I was looking this up. So I'm going to look on my phone just to make sure that I got this right. But it's NBA time. Playoffs are here. I think there's like 2 games left in the regular season. Then we're getting right into the play-in games and the playoff games, which I'm still kind of iffy about whether I'm actually like a fan of the play-in tournament. Like I'm not really a huge advocator of change. I liked it the way it was, and I think that if there's nothing wrong, don't fix it. But you got to follow the money. The money makes all the decisions, so it is what it is. But anywho, all right, so let's talk about the NBA because there are a few things that I see from these standings that kind of have me like, whoa. Remember, my brain has been on football and then college basketball, and now the NBA has its time. NFL free agency. It's the NBA's time. Before the NFL draft, it's the NBA's time, okay? So we're going to make sure that we give them all the respect because they need it. We've seen some crazy stuff, but I'm all here for it. So a couple things. One, the Boston Celtics are 62-17. They are 13.5 games up on the Milwaukee Bucks, who are in second, and they're only a half game up on the Knicks, who are only a half game up on the Cavs, who are only a game up on the Magic. Shout out to the Magic. Being a top 4, well, I guess they're 5th, but 5 and 4 really, there's not much consequence. Shout out to the Magic being a top 4 or 5 team in the East. That kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, we knew that they were solid, but top 5, over team. And granted, part of that helps is Miami's never as good a team in the regular season as they are in the playoffs. Philly had the issue with Joel Embiid that I know about with the injury, but that's dope, man. That's dope. Shout out to the Magic, Paolo Banchero in the squad over there. Jalen Suggs, remember Gonzaga's own Jalen Suggs. Shout out to them, man. Shout out to them. But Boston, 35-3 at home. That says a lot. It says that that's a team who values the regular season. That's a team that is on a mission, okay? And that's a team that's not doing a lot of taking nights off, right? Maybe the playing game wasn't as important to them as it was to others, but I mean, not the plan. I'm sorry. The in-season tournament wasn't as important to them as the others, but whatever. They're firmly in first place in the East, head over heels better than everybody else. I don't know if Drew Holiday and Kristaps have something to do with that. I don't know if it's injuries elsewhere that have other things to do with that. But, I mean, Boston's got the best record by 6 games. 6 whole games on the best team in the West. Now, granted, the West has the next 4, 5. The top 5 teams in the West would all be the 1 seed in the East, which is how it used to be. But, yeah, so yeah, that's something. I think the Sixers in the play-in is bullshit. Just being honest, right? Obviously, they had the injury with Embiid and they fell off the wagon, and now they've won 6 straight. And so they're going to mess around. And if the Pacers win one more game, which they've got the Cavs and they've got the Hawks, while the Sixers have, who they got left? The Magic and the Nets. The Sixers will mess around and play in the play-in game, beat the Heat, and Milwaukee, I promise you, Milwaukee is not trying to see Philly round 1 because they will probably go home. We cannot figure out Milwaukee, the Dame Lillard experiment. We can't really tell if it's been great or not great. I mean, they're at 49-31. They might not get 50 wins. They probably will. But, like, making that move and not making it to 50 wins, whether you're the 2 seed in the East or not, feels kind of like a letdown. And look, the longer that we do this, the more you'll understand how y'all keep trying to tell me Doc Rivers is a great coach, and I'm waiting for y'all to show me why. But hey, that's another conversation for another time. It's also shady. I mean, dog, if I bring you in, if I'm a team owner, I have a coach, I bring you in to consult. So one thing I'm telling you right there is that I believe that something's going wrong and you might be able to help me find the answers. And then all of a sudden the coach gets fired and then you're just like, oh, well, I mean, I'm here. I'll step in. It don't look fishy. Y'all can't tell me it doesn't look fishy. Like, it doesn't look, and it's not like the Bucks were a lowly seed in the East or nothing like that. They were still up there. So it looks a little bit off to me. Doc Rivers just, JJ Redick went off on him on First Take, however many months ago that was, and it sparked the whole thing. But it is always somebody else's fault other than Doc Rivers. But anyway, so they don't want to see Philly. I mean, they don't really want to see Miami either, but that's looking like what it's going to be. Philly and Miami are going to match up. Chicago and Atlanta are going to match up, and then, yeah. So now, granted, Miami was close to losing to, I want to say it was Atlanta last year, and they ended up making the finals. So if you're Boston, you're kind of rolling your eyes like Miami always does this crap, but you're also probably licking your chops like we want them back after last year. And if you're Milwaukee, you are hoping that you don't see Philly. You're probably trying to get to the 3 seed. So you're probably trying to lose 2 games and get to the 3 seed or the 4 and avoid. You probably want to be the 3 because you don't want to play Boston, but you're probably trying to avoid it altogether. It wouldn't be surprising if that's what they were trying to do. But because the Knicks have no Julius Randle, the Knicks have the Celtics, which is probably a loss. They have the Nets and the Bulls. That's at least 2 wins. That's 49. So yeah, you might have to lose out, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see. That's interesting. That's interesting. Because if I'm Milwaukee, do I really want to see Philly or Miami? No. If I can go see Indiana, who doesn't have any playoff experience right now, yeah. Or they're but see, that's the other thing. If Philly sneaks, they're only a game back of Indiana. They sneak into the 6. Milwaukee could find themselves regretting that decision and having to play Philly in the first round. It's a mess. And this kind of feels like this is one of those situations where this is not how the play-in stuff is supposed to work. But because Philly had this big injury that cost them a lot of games, they find themselves being the team nobody wants to see in the first round, which doesn't really fit like the preface of the best team plays the worst team that you make these playoffs. But anyway, whatever. On the West side, you got the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, and the Thunder all fighting for the 1 seed. Nuggets have a 1-game lead on both of them. Nuggets beat Minnesota the other night. Are the Nuggets just inevitable? Like, I understand there's other good teams. You don't want to be, if you're Oklahoma City or Minnesota, you don't want to be in the 2-3 matchup with the Nuggets, where you're going to have to beat them and then get past them to then play the other of y'all three. And if you're the Nuggets, you're kind of like, all right, we'll get past whoever we're going to play round 1. We'll get past the Clippers or Dallas round 2, which I think that Dallas is going to smoke the Clippers' boots, if I'm being quite honest with you. I think Clippers are getting out of here. I think it might be 6, but it could be 5. I'm not falling for the Clippers. I know they went on that long stretch, and I know that they're much better when Russell Westbrook is playing versus when he's not. I'm not falling for it. I'm not falling for it at all. Not falling for the Clippers. I love seeing Oklahoma City. I love Chet. I love Gobert and Ant-Man in Minnesota. And, of course, I love Jokic and Jamal Murray. And Jamal Murray's health has seemed to be pretty much the whole thing around Denver's wins and losses. Their record with Murray versus without. With Murray, they're barely over 500. And without, they're the best team in the league. So, without him, they're barely over 500. And with him, they're the best team in the league. So that's, do with that information as you will. Looking down here, you got the Pelicans at the 6 seed, half a game up on Phoenix, who's the 7, and the Kings, who are a game and a half behind them at the 8. But they're only half a game up on the Lakers and 1 game up on the Warriors. That's interesting because the Kings are falling off here a little bit. They have lost 3 of 4. They've got the Pelicans next, who are trying to secure that 6. Then they've got the Suns, who are trying to get that 6, but definitely not go past the 8 because they don't want to get below the Lakers. And then they got the Blazers. Oh, damn. That's a tough little schedule for the Kings. They got the 2 teams in front. Now, granted, you win these games, you're really putting yourself in a good position for you to get the 6 if you're the Kings. But seeing them kind of fall back from the 3 last year to the 6 is kind of what or the 2 to the 6 or whatever it is kind of what this is probably how good the Kings actually were last year. They just had a really good season. Remember? And then the Warriors actually beat them in round 1 in game 7. Yeah, this is probably right where the Kings actually are. You got the Lakers and the Warriors, half a game separated with 3 games to go. Warriors got the Blazers, the Pelicans, and the Jazz. They should win 2 out of 3. The Lakers only have 2 games to go, but they got the Grizzlies and the Pelicans. If they win 1, then they will both have a 46-36 record. I don't know who has the tiebreaker, but they'll be playing in the 9-10 matchup more than likely. You got Steph, Bron, AD, Booker, Beal, and Durant all in the play-in in the West. Now, you got Zion not in the play-in. He could be in the play-in, just depending on how this goes. But Luka and them made it out the play-in. The Clippers made it out the play-in. I like the West more than I like the East because I don't know anything about Cleveland is the team that just makes me, they're going home. They always do. First round, Cleveland's not. You're playing 2 small guards. It's really hard when it comes to playoff basketball playing 2 small guards. The Knicks are gonna struggle because Brunson's so small, but they just play such great defense and they are well coached. But Cleveland having 2 small guards is a little bit different. I'm curious how Orlando, I think that's going to be an intriguing series if they play Orlando and Cleveland. Oh, shoot, Orlando and Indiana have the same record. They're both only 1 game on Philly. We might mess around. Oh, who's Orlando got? So Orlando's got the Sixers, and the Bucks. Oh, Orlando might be out of here. While the Pacers got the Cavs. They're only 1 game back and the Hawks. Yeah, so Orlando might be in the 7 because the Heat got the Raptors twice. That's 2 dubs. So Orlando might be in the 7. But anyway, that'll be interesting as well. Let's go ahead and ask the hard questions. Okay. we've already asked, are the Nuggets inevitable? The way UConn was, the way the South Carolina girls were. I think they are. I think the Nuggets are. I think that the Lakers can beat anybody if they get the right matchup. They will. But I also think they could lose any game. I don't think the Lakers lose to the Warriors if they play in a play-in. I think the Warriors are hoping everything in their power. They don't have to play the Lakers. If they do, they play them in a 7-8 situation, not a 9-10. But I don't think anybody wants the Nuggets. I don't think anybody can rock with the Nuggets. I do think the Lakers have a better chance because they do have good size. So are they inevitable? Probably. Do we actually believe in the Thunder or the Timberwolves? This is the same exact thing we saw with the Kings last year. The young team that was probably a year or two ahead in the Thunder, ahead of where they were supposed to be. Probably more like 1 year. I think the Kings last year were probably 2 years ahead. I think Thunder are probably 1 year ahead. The Timberwolves, I think that they are where they're supposed to be. I would kind of expect them more in that 5-6 range, not that 1-2-3 range, but they've got the pieces. So why not them? Right? I think that there are some teams that are benefiting from a down year for Memphis. I think there are teams that are benefiting from the Spurs don't quite have what they need around Wemby. And I think that the teams I'm talking about here aren't the teams you're thinking when I'm talking about the Timberwolves or the Thunder. It's the Warriors and the Lakers type stuff, where these older teams who can kind of just coast and like, oh, we know how the regular season works and we'll do whatever. And we'll, the Lakers punted them. They went 3-13 the month after the play-in. After the play-in, I keep saying play-in. After the in-season tournament. That's 10 games. Like a 10 game, like minus 10 game stretch for them. You get a team like Memphis who comes up, the Spurs, and then you had Houston who was nipping on everybody's heels with Ime Udoka. That's three teams right there who are coming, and I see the three teams that better get up out of here: Phoenix, Lakers, Warriors. Those are the three teams that are dipset, right? Because they're all getting old. They're just getting old. Everybody else is pretty young. Denver's solid. Minnesota's young. Oklahoma City, young. The Clippers are getting old too, so they might be another one, just depending on where those veterans decide they want to go with the rest of their careers. New Orleans, young. Sacramento, young. Phoenix, old. LA, old. Golden State, old. Houston, young. Memphis, I don't think they're old. They might not be super young. They're probably young, though. And then San Antonio, Wemby's coming. Wemby is coming. If you don't remember anything else from this pod, remember that Wemby is coming. Okay? So they better get in while they can, because it's about to be over for these old dudes. Get them out of here. Get these old heads out of here. It's over. It's done. Finito. Finish. Bye. New faces of the league. Okay? Hard questions. Is Jokic the MVP just because everybody says he's the MVP? And we've been saying it for like 2 months? Because why not Luka? Luka's got the... Luka has... why not Luka? Luka's averaging 33.9, 9.2 rebounds, and 9.8 assists. His team right now is the 5 seed. But by the time you hear this, they could be the 4 seed. I lied. They're going to be... Yeah, they could be the 4 seed. SGA, 30 points a game for, I think it's third straight season, or second straight season at least. 30 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Jokic just 26, 12, and 9, doing what Jokic does. Why is Jason Tatum getting no love? His team's got 62 wins. I thought that the best player on the best team always at least was basically on the ballot. And it just sounds like when you hear people talk about Tatum, they just say, he's just not it. And I have no clue why, because it seems pretty it to me. 27 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Like, I don't really know what else you have to do. Be the best player by a mile on the best team by a mile. They used to just always get consideration. So do we really want to have a true conversation about who the MVP is? Because I think everybody's just saying Jokic because it's just been Jokic. Once Embiid got hurt and Jokic won a championship, I think everybody was like, okay, we didn't give it to him last year. Then he won a chip. So now the Embiid's hurt. We just need to go ahead and give it to him. And maybe we should sit back and have a better conversation about who the MVP should be, because I don't necessarily think it's that clear cut. That's just me. I don't want no beef. I don't want no beef. Okay? But I think that if I had a vote, which I don't, I probably should have a vote over some of y'all, if I'm being quite honest. But again, don't want no beef. Not today. I don't want no smoke today. But if I had to choose, I'm probably going Luka. Luka's bringing his team up. I mean, they're playing the best basketball probably of anybody in the NBA, except Boston, of course. And it's because of Luka. Why not make Luka the MVP, man? Why not? That's my MVP. Luka's my MVP. If I had to pick, I'd probably still go Nuggets over the field in the West, but I think it's wide open, and I think it's going to make an interesting playoffs on both sides, because I haven't watched a lot of the Pacers, but we know they were entertaining in the in-season tournament. Haven't watched a lot of Magic. I don't really watch a lot of Cleveland. Haven't watched a lot of gotten to see a lot of Minnesota. Haven't gotten to see a lot of Denver, all these West Coast teams. You know, you get Warriors, you get Lakers all the time, so it'll be nice to see some other guys in the playoffs that haven't been in the playoffs, and Zion. Because, you know, how we all felt about Zion, and this is now the year where when Zion was hurt and Ja went right, now Ja's out and Zion can get right. You know, so it's NBA time, man. You got to be excited. This is some of the best times in sports. You just had the NFL ended, the Super Bowl in February, then you get March Madness, then you get the NBA playoffs before you get to the dead of the summer, where it's baseball. You know, we got hockey playoffs coming if you're interested in hockey, but it's baseball. My summer's going to be kind of interview based. But anyway, no shade on baseball. Maybe we'll cover something. Maybe we'll get some more Shohei Ohtani news. But I'm being quite honest, NBA playoffs all the way up till June, it's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. Can the storylines of LeBron and Steph, and then can Tatum and them actually, can Boston, all the success they've had, can they actually have the end goal, which is win a championship, so on and so forth. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I, for one, am excited. You guys should be excited. You guys should be making sure that you're excited to subscribe and follow me along this journey. Again, Clearing the Air with Kevin Callier. Hit me on the socials. All the socials. Let me see if I can pull the socials up for y'all so that y'all actually know where to find all this stuff. You can hit me on Twitter at @therealkev_0, at @cleartheair_pod. If you want to hit the podcast Twitter, hit me on Instagram at @thereal_kev0. I appreciate you guys for hanging out. I appreciate you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys for subscribing, rating, reviewing, giving 5 stars, because I know you're going to do that, because you're going to treat this as the best in sports content, because that's exactly what it is. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And until next time, I'm out.